Motivation is a tricky one. So I suggest that everyone ask themselves, what is it that I want to accomplish? And what is it that's driving me to accomplish this? And come up with 2 or 3 things. Fear-based, perhaps, love-based, perhaps, or perhaps several of those, in order to ensure alertness, energy, and attention for the task. And there's a lot of discussion nowadays about smartphones and devices creating a sort of attention deficit, almost at a clinical level for many people, including adults. I think that's largely true. And what it means, however, is that we all are responsible for learning how to create depth of focus. There are some important neuroscience principles to get depth of focus. How do you increase focus? People are so familiar with sitting down, reading a couple pages of a book and realizing that none of it sunk in. Or talking to someone and seeing their mouth move, maybe even nodding your head subconsciously and go, and none of it sinks in. This can be very damaging for school, work performance, and relationships, as many of you know. Best way to get better at focusing is to use the mechanisms of focus that you were born with. And the key principle here is that mental focus follows visual focus. We are all familiar with the fact that our visual system can be unfocused, blurry, or jumping around, or we can be very laser focused on one location in space. So let's think about visual focus for a second. When we focus on something visually, we have 2 options. We can either look at a very small region of space with a lot of detail and a lot of precision, or we can dilate our gaze and we can see big pieces of visual space with very little detail. It's a trade-off. We can't look at everything at high resolution. When we focus our eyes, we do a couple things. First of all, we tend to do that in the center of our visual field, and our 2 eyes tend to align in what's called a vergence eye movement towards a common point. The other thing that happens is the lens of our eye moves so that our brain now no longer sees the entire visual world, but is seeing a small cone of visual imagery. Assuming that you're paying attention and you're alert, when you're very alert, your eyes are wide, your eyes are open. And as you get tired, your eyelids start to close. Blinks actually reset our perception of time and space. And blinking, of course, is necessary to lubricate the eyes. People blink because their eyes might get dry. But if you can keep focus by blinking less and by focusing your eyes to a particular location, that's probably pretty creepy for you to experience as I'm doing this. But the more that you can do this, the more that you can maintain a kind of a cone or a tunnel of mental focus. You need focus, and visual focus is the primary way in which we start to deploy these neurochemicals. But how long can you maintain visual focus on a target, just on a piece of paper set a few feet away in the room or at the level of your computer screen? These are actually things that people do in communities where high levels of visual focus are necessary. Closing the eyes is one of the best ways to create a cone of auditory attention, and this is what low vision or no vision folks do. They have tremendous capacity to focus their attention in particular locations. I don't want to tell people what to do or not to do, but think carefully about how often you're focusing on something and how good you are or poor you are at focusing on something that's challenging.